Well, I joked when I first arrived in Florida that my two greatest fears were hurricanes and alligators. This past week, I also saw my first alligator, so I will be handing in my resignation and returning to the Northeast promptly. In all sincerity, my hurricane experience was not so bad. Some of you might have resonated with Pastor Doug as I did when he described the roller coaster of survivor's euphoria followed by something kind of like survivor's guilt. Where I lived relatively far inland, we didn't have much damage. We only lost power for a few hours. And when the storm began to abate, I had this euphoric sense of, we made it! I'm a hurricane veteran! We're okay! And then the next day, the internet came back, and I started to see the devastation of wrecked businesses and lost homes. And I almost began to feel guilty, as if there was something wrong, that I should be okay when other people weren't. That I should be blessed when other people were suffering. Did I do something wrong? Can I make it better? And now I know not everybody here had the same experience. Certainly not everybody who will watch online had the same experience as me. But if you are here this morning, there's a chance you have found yourself feeling something on that spectrum of euphoria to guilt. Because if we're here this morning, there certainly are people we are more fortunate than. And if you have felt that tension, there is a verse that has resonated with me that may well resonate with you. It's from the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 9, verse 3. King David asked, "Is there anyone left of Saul's family that I can show the kindness of God to?" Ziba said to the king, "Well, there's still Jonathan's son, who's injured in both his feet." And the king asked him, "Where is he?" Now, if you're not terribly familiar with the story of King David, you might not know that before he became king, he experienced quite a bit of challenge. David was pursued by King Saul. He lived as a fugitive for years. He lost most of what he had. And when Saul died and David became king, he had a reversal of fortune. He became powerful and won many military victories. But when David's fortunes turned, he did not choose the way of survivor's euphoria. I made it, time for the easy life of a king. But notably, he also didn't choose the way of survivor's guilt. Oh, why did God bless me and not these others? Is something wrong? Should I make it better? He chose a third option, a more fulfilling option, that we might call survivor's grace. Notice in verse 3, he asks the question, is there anyone I might show the kindness of God to? He doesn't say, wow, I've been really lucky. He says, God has been kind to me. Now, the truth is, for anybody who's here this morning, the reality is not that we've been really lucky or that we made really smart decisions. The reality is that God has provided for us. We serve under a sovereign God who's been good to us. And when our response to this storm emerges from a realization that God has been kind to us, a very real reaction might be the same reaction as David. Well, if God has been kind to me, who can I show God's kindness to? In David's case, he found a grandson of the very man who sought his life, the son Mephibosheth of his best friend Jonathan. And David sought Mephibosheth, raised him up, sat him at his table, and treated him like a king. And if we have been so fortunate to have been blessed during this storm, we might well ask the same question as David. How might we show the kindness of God to others? You've heard of many ways this morning, whether it might be by volunteering time with Samaritan's Purse, whether it might be by volunteering your finances with the Hurricane Relief Fund, or maybe volunteering a listening ear to a neighbor who's had a rougher time than us. Truly, it's the way of Jesus, not to take his blessings to ourselves, nor to try to fix the world on our own, but to ask, God has been so kind to me. Who may I show that same kindness to? That we may, with David, ask that same question he asks in verse 4. Where is my Mephibosheth? Amen.